The great chamber of Concordia Prime stretched out like a cathedral of glass and metal. Thousands of beings from hundreds of worlds sat in circular rows, all facing the center platform. The air hummed with translation devices, turning countless alien languages into something everyone could understand. Ambassador Elena Vasquez stood on the platform, her hands trembling slightly. She was human, which meant she was one of the newest species to reach the stars. Her dark hair was pulled back tight, and her uniform was crisp and perfect. She wanted to look professional, strong, but inside, her heart was pounding. Behind her stood 3 other humans from Earth's delegation. They were not allowed to sit with the council members. Humans only had observer status. They could watch, they could speak when allowed, but they could not vote on anything important. The 7 council elders sat on their high thrones. Each represented one of the ancient species that had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years. The Zenthari elder was the tallest, with golden skin that seemed to glow. Next to him sat the Krell representative, covered in blue scales. The others were equally impressive and equally alien. Elena had been speaking for 10 minutes. Her voice was steady as she presented her evidence. Images floated in the air above her, holographic displays showing the wreckage of human colony ships. 5 ships in the past 2 years, 17,000 dead, men, women, and children all gone. The pattern is clear, Elena said, gesturing to the data. Each ship was sabotaged before launch. The power cores were tampered with. We have traced the technology signatures back to Zenthari systems. This was not an accident. This was murder. The chamber erupted in clicking, buzzing, and other alien sounds. The translation devices rendered it all as shocked murmurs and angry denials. The Zenthari elder rose from his throne. His voice boomed across the chamber. This is an outrage. The human accuses us without proof. She brings false testimony to this sacred council. Elena's jaw tightened. The proof is right here. Our engineers found Zenthari components in the sabotage devices. Your identification codes were still active. Lies. The elder's golden skin flushed darker. Humans are primitives. You barely left your world 50 years ago. You spread across space like a plague, claiming worlds, demanding rights. Now you dare to accuse us? We who have maintained peace for millennia? Other council members nodded. The Vrex representative spoke, her voice cold. Humanity has established 147 colonies in just 40 years. You expand too fast. You take too much. Perhaps these accidents are warnings you should heed. Elena felt ice in her stomach. They were not going to listen. Worse, they were threatening her people. We followed all colonization protocols. We only settled on uninhabited worlds. We have broken no laws. You break the natural order, the Krell said, his scales rippling. Young species should move slowly, carefully. You rush forward like fools, like dangerous fools. The Zenthari elder raised one long arm. I invoke the ancient law, Article 7. This human has borne false witness before the council. She has accused a founding species without proper evidence. She has brought shame to these chambers. Elena's blood ran cold. She knew Article 7. Every ambassador did. It was an old law, from the early days of the council, when honor and truth were enforced with brutal finality. But nobody had invoked it in over 300 years. It was supposed to be symbolic, outdated. The punishment, the elder continued, is death by fire, so that all may see the price of lies. The chamber exploded with noise. Some species protested loudly. Others remained silent. The human delegation shouted, trying to rush forward, but security drones appeared instantly, holding them back with force fields. Elena stood frozen. This could not be happening. They were going to kill her? For telling the truth? For trying to protect her people? You cannot do this, she shouted. I am an ambassador. I have diplomatic immunity. You have observer status, the Vrex said coldly. Not full membership. The law is clear. 2 massive security robots approached Elena. They were not gentle as they grabbed her arms. She struggled, but it was useless. They dragged her to the center of the platform, where a circular area suddenly glowed red. Ancient symbols appeared on the floor. The other humans were screaming now, fighting against the force fields. Stop this. She's telling the truth. You're murdering her. The Zenthari elder began to chant in his ancient language. The other council members joined in. Energy crackled in the air. The temperature rose. Elena felt the heat starting at her feet. She looked up at the thousands of witnesses, at the council members who would not meet her eyes, at her fellow humans who were being held back. She thought of Earth, of her sister Sarah, of her home she would never see again. The flames came suddenly. They were not normal fire. They were pure energy, designed to burn hot and fast. Elena screamed. The pain was beyond anything she had imagined. But through her agony, she managed to activate her communication implant one last time. Her words went out on all frequencies. To every ship, every station, every world that was listening. "You have no idea what you've just done," she gasped, her voice distorted by pain. "We came in peace. We tried to follow your rules. We asked for justice, and you answer with murder. You burned me for telling the truth. Remember this moment. Remember what you did here, because we won't forget. We won't forgive. And we won't come in peace anymore." The flames consumed her completely. The translation devices carried her screams to every corner of the chamber. Then there was silence. The human delegation was expelled immediately. Security drones escorted them to their ship at gunpoint. They stumbled aboard, some crying, some in shock, all carrying the images they could never unsee. The ship broke away from Concordia Prime and jumped to faster-than-light speed. Inside, the humans gathered in the communications room. Someone had already sent the footage back to Earth. Every moment of Elena's execution had been recorded by dozens of devices. Admiral Marcus Chen sat in the command chair, his face carved from stone. He was military, not diplomatic, but he had been part of the delegation as security. He had watched Elena burn. He had been held back while she died. Now his hands gripped the armrest so hard his knuckles were white. The communication officer looked at him, waiting. Earth would want orders. The government would want to know what to do next. The entire human race would be watching that footage within hours. They would want answers. They would want action. Admiral Chen spoke one word. His voice was quiet, but it carried the weight of absolute certainty. Prometheus. The officer's eyes went wide. Everyone on the bridge understood what that word meant. It was a code name. A protocol, something they had all hoped would never be used. But now there was no choice. The galaxy had just declared war on humanity. They simply did not know it yet. Admiral Chen stood and walked to the viewport. Outside, the stars streaked past in bands of light. Beautiful, peaceful. That was about to change. All of it was about to change. Somewhere out there, Elena Vasquez had family, friends, a home. A life that had been stolen by fire and arrogance and ancient species who thought humans were too weak to matter. They were about to learn how wrong they were. The ship raced toward Earth, carrying news that would set the galaxy ablaze. The footage reached Earth 6 hours after Elena's death. It spread like wildfire across every network, every screen, every device. People watched in their homes, on street corners, in offices and schools. They watched Ambassador Elena Vasquez burn alive while aliens chanted, and her killers sat on golden thrones. Within 12 hours, 9 billion humans had seen it. Within 24 hours, the streets of every major city on Earth were filled with protesters. But they were not calling for peace or restraint. They were calling for war. The United Earth Government convened in Geneva. Every nation sent representatives. Every colony world sent delegates through quantum communication. For the first time in human history, there was no debate, no arguments, no political maneuvering. The vote took 3 minutes. The result was unanimous. Humanity would go to war with the Galactic Council. Total war, no mercy, no surrender. President Maria Santos stood at the podium, her face grim. She looked directly into the cameras that would broadcast her words across human space. They murdered our ambassador. They burned her alive for telling the truth. They did this believing we are weak, believing we would accept this. They are wrong. As of this moment, humanity is at war with the Zenthari Empire and all council members who supported this atrocity. May God have mercy on their souls, because we will not. The Prometheus protocol was activated immediately. Most humans had never heard of Prometheus. It was classified at the highest levels. Only a handful of military leaders and government officials knew it existed. But now its secrets were revealed to the world. 50 years ago, when humans first encountered alien life, everyone had celebrated. Humanity was not alone in the universe. There were thousands of other species, ancient civilizations, vast empires of knowledge and culture. It seemed like a golden age was beginning, but some people had been more cautious. Some military planners, scientists, and strategists had asked difficult questions. What if the aliens were hostile? What if humanity needed to fight? What if peaceful coexistence failed? Those people had created Prometheus. Named after the Greek god who stole fire from the heavens, the protocol was humanity's secret weapon. For 50 years, while humans smiled and played nice with the galactic community, they had been preparing for war. Now that preparation bore fruit, beyond the Kuiper Belt. Far from Earth, where no alien sensors had ever looked carefully, massive structures began to wake up. They had been built in secret, piece by piece, disguised as mining operations and scientific stations. Thousands of ships had carried materials out into the dark. Millions of workers had labored in silence. The shipyards activated. Lights flickered on across thousands of kilometers of construction docks. And there, hidden in the dark, was humanity's shadow fleet, 10,000 warships, each one built with technology that violated a dozen galactic treaties. Each one designed for one purpose: to kill. The aliens had rules about warfare, limits on weapon yields, restrictions on targeting, bans on certain technologies. They had fought their wars according to these rules for so long they had forgotten why the rules existed. They had forgotten what unrestricted warfare looked like. Humans had not forgotten. Humans remembered their own history: world wars, nuclear weapons, biological agents. Humanity knew how to wage total war because they had done it to themselves. Admiral Marcus Chen was promoted to Supreme Commander of all human military forces. He stood in the command center deep beneath Geneva, looking at holographic displays showing the fleet. 10,000 ships, millions of troops, weapons that would make the galaxy shudder. "Get me my sister," he said quietly. Dr. Sarah Chen arrived 30 minutes later. She was a scientist, not a soldier, but her eyes held the same cold rage as her brothers. Elena had been their sister. They had watched her die. They had been helpless to stop it. "Sarah," Marcus said, "I need the Reaper." She nodded slowly. "It's ready." "I wish it wasn't, but it is." The Reaper was Sarah's creation, a nightmare weapon that she had designed 5 years ago as a theoretical defense against biological warfare. It was a nanoweapon, microscopic machines that could be programmed to target specific genetic markers. In theory, it could be used to cure diseases. In practice, it could be weaponized to kill specific species while leaving others untouched. "It violates the Bioweapons Convention," Sarah said. "Using it will make us war criminals under galactic law." "They burned our sister alive on live broadcast," Marcus replied, his voice flat. "They declared war on us first. Galactic law is dead." Sarah looked at the displays, at the ships preparing for war, at the images still playing of Elena's final moments. She thought about all her moral principles, all her beliefs about the sanctity of life and the ethics of science. Then she thought about Elena screaming. "I'll prepare it for deployment," she said. Across human space, the military mobilized. Reserve forces were activated. Factories converted to war production. Scientists unveiled projects that had been hidden for decades: kinetic bombardment systems, relativistic missiles, plasma weapons, antimatter warheads, nanite swarms, quantum disruptors. Technology that the galactic community had banned because it was too dangerous, too cruel, too effective. Humanity had reverse-engineered crashed alien vessels, stolen technology from allies, and improved upon everything they learned. They had taken thousands of years of galactic advancement and weaponized it. The first battle fleet assembled near Mars. 2,000 warships, crewed by men and women who had all watched Elena die. Every soldier, every pilot, every gunner had volunteered. There were no drafted troops. Everyone wanted to be part of this. Admiral Chen addressed them from his flagship, the UES Vasquez. He appeared on every screen in every ship. "Soldiers of Earth," he began, "you all know why we're here. You saw what they did. You saw how they treated us. We came to the galaxy in peace. We followed their rules. We tried to be good neighbors. They responded by murdering our ambassador for telling the truth." He paused, letting his words sink in. "They think we're primitives, barbarians, too young and weak to matter. They're about to learn the truth. We are the apex predators of Earth. For millions of years we fought and killed and survived on a death world that made us the most dangerous species we ever met. We climbed to the top of our food chain by being smarter, meaner, and more ruthless than anything else." His voice hardened. "They wanted fire. We'll give them stars. Every council member who voted for Elena's execution will pay. Every species that supports them will learn to fear us. We will burn our lesson into the galaxy so deeply that no one will ever dare touch a human again. The fleet erupted in cheers. Battle cries in 100 languages echoed through the ships. Humanity was going to war. Helm, Admiral Chen ordered. Set course for Zenthari space. Maximum speed. The navigator looked up. Sir, that's 12 systems. 40 billion Zenthari. Their home fleet has 3,000 ships. I know, Chen said coldly. That's why we're bringing 2,000. It'll be enough, the engines fired. 2,000 human warships jumped to faster than light speed. They raced through hyperspace toward Zenthari territory, carrying the fury of 9 billion humans who had watched their ambassador burn. The galaxy was about to learn what humanity was capable of when they stopped pretending to be civilized. They were about to learn what happened when you backed a predator into a corner. They were about to learn that humans had not forgotten how to be monsters. They only forgot when they felt safe, when they felt welcome, when they felt at peace. The Council had taken that feeling away. Now they would face the consequences. The war had begun. The Zenthari detected the human fleet 3 hours before it arrived. Their sensors picked up the faster-than-light signatures of 2,000 ships entering their territory. At first, they thought it was a mistake. Humans did not have 2,000 warships. Humans barely had 100 vessels that could fight. Admiral Jothik of the Zenthari home fleet was confident as he assembled his forces. 3,000 ships, each one more advanced than anything humans possessed. The Zenthari had been spacefaring for over 4,000 years. They had weapons refined across centuries of warfare. They had shields that could withstand anything. They were invincible. Let the primitives come, Jothik said to his officers. We will destroy them, and then finish what the Council started. We will burn their worlds as they burned their ambassador. His crew laughed. It was going to be an easy victory. They were wrong. The human fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the system. They did not hail the Zenthari. They did not offer terms. They did not follow any rules of engagement. They simply opened fire. The first salvo was kinetic. Thousands of tungsten rods, each weighing several tons, accelerated to a significant fraction of light speed. They crossed the distance in seconds. The Zenthari shields stopped most of them. Most, but not all. 17 ships were destroyed before they could even raise full shields. Jothik stared at his displays in shock. How were humans firing weapons at those velocities? That technology was banned. It was too dangerous, too indiscriminate. Return fire, he commanded. Show them the price of attacking us. The Zenthari fleet fired their plasma weapons. Beautiful streams of superheated matter lanced across space toward the human ships. They should have torn through human armor like paper. Instead, they splashed harmlessly against new shielding technology that the Zenthari had never seen before. Impossible, Jothik whispered. Where did they get gravitic shields? The answer was simple. Humans had stolen the technology from a Krell merchant ship 15 years ago, improved it, and installed it on every warship in secret. But Jothik would never learn this. He would not live long enough. The human fleet split into attack formations with a precision that shocked the Zenthari. They moved like predators, like hunters who had practiced this dance 1,000 times. They targeted command ships first, taking out Zenthari coordination. Then they went after the support vessels, the carriers, the supply ships. Admiral Chen watched from the bridge of the UES Vasquez. His face was emotionless as Zenthari ships exploded on the displays. Each flash of light was 1,000 aliens dying. He felt nothing, not satisfaction, not remorse, just cold mechanical focus. Deploy the Lances, he ordered. The Lances were humanity's answer to galactic warship design. Instead of large, heavily armed cruisers, humans had built smaller, faster ships with a single purpose: to get close and unleash devastating short-range attacks. They were piloted by volunteers who knew they might not survive. 300 Lance ships broke from the main fleet and accelerated hard. The Zenthari tried to shoot them down, but the Lances were too fast, too maneuverable. They wove through. Defensive fire like dancers, taking losses but never stopping. When they reached optimal range, they fired. Each Lance carried a single antimatter torpedo. Antimatter was another banned technology. When matter and antimatter met, they annihilated each other completely, releasing energy that rivaled small nuclear explosions. 240 torpedoes struck home. 240 Zenthari warships simply ceased to exist, vaporized in blasts of pure energy. The explosions were so bright they lit up the entire system. The battle lasted 6 hours. It was the most brutal one-sided slaughter the galaxy had ever witnessed. The Zenthari threw everything they had at the humans. Their best weapons, their finest tactics, their bravest warriors. Nothing worked. Humans fought without mercy, without hesitation, without any consideration for the rules of war. They used every dirty trick, every banned weapon, every ruthless strategy. When Zenthari ships tried to surrender, humans destroyed them anyway. There would be no prisoners, no mercy. By the time it ended, 3,000 Zenthari ships were debris. The human fleet had lost 200 vessels. It was not even close to a fair fight. But Admiral Chen was not finished. He opened a communication channel that broadcast across the entire system, to every planet, every station, every Zenthari who was watching. "People of the Zenthari Empire," he said, his voice cold and clear, "your leaders murdered our ambassador. They burned her alive while she told the truth. This is the price. But this is only the beginning. We demand the surrender of all council members who voted for Elena Vasquez's execution. You have 48 hours. If they are not delivered to us, we will destroy every military target in your territory. After that, we will start on your colonies. Choose wisely." The broadcast ended. The human fleet moved into orbit around the Zenthari homeworld. 2,000 warships, their weapons aimed at the planet below. 40 billion Zenthari looked up at their sky and saw their doom waiting. On Concordia Prime, the Galactic Council convened an emergency session. The 7 elders watched the footage of the battle with growing horror. The humans had destroyed the Zenthari home fleet in hours. Hours. A fleet that had taken centuries to build, gone in an afternoon. "This is madness," the Vrex elder said, her voice shaking. "They cannot do this. There are laws, rules." "They do not care about our rules," the Krell elder said grimly. "They have made that clear." The Zenthari elder stood, his golden skin pale with rage and fear. "We must unite against them, call all the fleets, mobilize every species, crush humanity before they can threaten us further." But when the council sent out the call, only 3 species answered. The Krell, the Vrex, and the Talnari promised their fleets. The others sent polite refusals. They wanted no part of a war with these terrifying humans. On the Zenthari homeworld, protests filled the streets. Citizens demanded that the council members be handed over to the humans. Why should billions die to protect 7 politicians? The government tried to maintain order, but panic was spreading. 48 hours passed. The Zenthari government refused to surrender the council members. They still believed they could win. They still thought humans would follow some kind of civilized rules. Admiral Chen received their refusal and nodded. He had expected nothing less. He looked at his tactical officer. "Begin Operation Reaper." Dr. Sarah Chen's weapon was deployed on a Zenthari military outpost first. A single small capsule was fired from orbit. It penetrated the station's defenses easily, too small to trigger alarms. When it reached the interior, it opened and released billions of nanomachines. The Reaper virus spread through the station's air system in minutes. It was programmed to target Zenthari DNA specifically. The first symptoms were simple: difficulty breathing, dizziness. Then came the pain. The nanomachines attacked cellular structures, breaking down tissues from the inside. It was agonizing. It was efficient. It was utterly merciless. 3,000 Zenthari soldiers died in 30 minutes. Their final moments were broadcast to their homeworld as a warning. "This is what we can do," Admiral Chen said in his next transmission. "We can kill you all without ever landing a soldier. We can make your death slow and painful. Or you can give us what we want. The choice is yours. You have 24 more hours." In the Zenthari capital, riots broke out. The people stormed government buildings, demanding action. The military, prepared to defend the planet, but even they were losing hope. How could they fight an enemy that could kill them with weapons they could not see? Across the galaxy, other species watched in horror. Humanity was not just winning, They were demonstrating their ability to commit genocide with ease. This was not a war. This was extermination. The Council sent urgent messages to humanity, calling for negotiations, offering compromises, begging for mercy. The messages went unanswered. Humans had made their demands clear. Everything else was noise. Admiral Chen stood on the bridge of his flagship, looking at the planet below. Somewhere down there, billions of Zenthari lived their lives. They had families. They had dreams. They had done nothing wrong except be part of a species whose leaders made a terrible mistake. He thought about Elena. He thought about her screaming as she burned. He thought about all the humans on those sabotaged colony ships. He thought about justice and revenge and where the line between them existed. Then he pushed those thoughts aside. There would be time for philosophy later. For now, there was only war. The 3 Council species who had answered the call to arms assembled their fleets at the Nexus Array, a massive space station that controlled several major trade routes. The Krell brought 800 ships. The Virex contributed 600. The Talnari added 400 more, 1,800 warships crewed by the finest warriors of 3 ancient civilizations. They were confident. Humanity had defeated the Zenthari through surprise and brutality, but this would be different. This combined fleet had experience working together. They had trained for joint operations. They had the best weapons in the galaxy. Admiral Chen looked at the intelligence reports and smiled grimly. The aliens were gathering their forces in one place. They were making this easy. Take the entire fleet, he ordered. All 8,000 ships, we end this in one battle. His officers stared at him. Sir, we only need a fraction of that force. Why commit everything? Because I want them to see it, Chen replied. I want every species in the galaxy to watch and understand what happens when you fight humanity. I want this battle to be so overwhelming, so absolute, that no one will ever dare oppose us again. The human fleet jumped to the Nexus Array. 8,000 warships dropped out of hyperspace in perfect formation. The aliens had never seen a force that large. It blocked out the stars. The battle began immediately. The combined alien fleet moved to engage, their commanders coordinating their attacks. They had studied human tactics from the previous battle. They were ready. They were not ready enough. Humans had been studying warfare for thousands of years. Every human child learned about ancient battles, famous generals, historical campaigns. Humans wrote books about war, made movies about war, created games about war. It was in their culture, their history, their blood. The human fleet moved like a single organism. Attack wings flanked the enemy while the main force pushed through the center. Support ships stayed back, providing electronic warfare and point defense. Lance ships darted in for killing blows. Heavy cruisers absorbed enemy fire while destroyers exploited weaknesses. The aliens fought well. They destroyed hundreds of human ships. But for every human vessel lost, 5 alien ships died. The math was simple and brutal. 10 hours into the battle, Admiral Chen gave a new order. Prepare the Prometheus weapon. On the bridge, several officers went pale. They knew what that meant. Everyone in the military knew. But hearing the order made it real. The Prometheus weapon was humanity's ultimate threat. Scientists had theorized about it for decades. A device that could trigger a star to go supernova. It required enormous energy and incredibly precise calculations. The aliens had considered such a weapon impossible. They had laws against even researching it. Humans had built 3 of them. The nearest Zenthari system was called Talmora. It was a small system, mostly military installations and industrial facilities. But 2 billion Zenthari lived there. It had been chosen specifically because its destruction would be devastating, but not completely genocidal. The Prometheus device was deployed by a stealth ship. It reached the system's star undetected and dove into the stellar atmosphere. Once in position, it activated. The device used quantum manipulation to destabilize the star's fusion processes. It created a cascade effect that would take 12 hours to complete. By the time anyone noticed, it would be too late to stop. Admiral Chen broadcast the countdown across all frequencies. Every species in the galaxy received the message. Every screen showed the timer ticking down. 12 hours until a star died. "We gave you chances," Chen said in his broadcast. "We made our demands clear. You refused. You thought we were bluffing. You thought we were too civilized to use such weapons. You were wrong. In 12 hours, Talmora burns. 2 billion Zenthari will die. This is the price of defiance. This is what happens when you murder our people and think there will be no consequences." Panic spread across the galaxy. The Zenthari government begged for mercy. They offered to surrender the council members immediately, but Chen refused to answer. The countdown continued. Species that had remained neutral began to send frantic messages to the council, demanding they end this madness. The 4 council members who had not committed military forces suddenly withdrew all support for the war. They wanted nothing to do with this anymore. At the Nexus Array, the battle turned into a rout. The alien fleet was shattered. Ships fled in every direction. Some tried to surrender, broadcasting ceasefire requests. Human ships ignored them and kept firing. No quarter, no mercy. By the time the battle ended, 1,600 alien ships were destroyed. The humans had lost 700 vessels. It was still barely a contest. The Nexus Array itself was damaged beyond repair. Its massive structure was torn apart by weapons fire. Millions of civilians had been evacuated before the battle, but thousands remained trapped inside. Human rescue teams made no effort to save them. The countdown to Talmora's destruction continued. 10 hours, 8 hours, 6 hours. The Zenthari elder, desperate and terrified, tried to use a weapon his species had sworn never to deploy. It was called the Void Hammer, a missile carrying a warhead that could crack a planet's crust. It was aimed at Earth. The missile launched from a hidden facility deep in Zenthari space. It was fast, nearly undetectable, and carried enough destructive power to kill billions. It would take 3 days to reach Earth. Human intelligence intercepted its launch within minutes. Not because humans had better sensors, but because they had infiltrated Zenthari communications weeks ago. Humans had been reading their enemies' messages since the war began. Admiral Chen ordered an immediate response. A strike team of 30 ships jumped directly to the hidden facility. They destroyed it completely. Along with 2 other secret bases the Zenthari did not even know humans had located. The Void Hammer missile was intercepted by 3 Lance ships. The pilots knew it would be a one-way mission. They rammed the missile, at high speed, detonating it far from any inhabited system. 3 ships, 15 volunteers. They died instantly, but they saved billions. But Chen was not satisfied with just stopping the attack. He wanted revenge for the attempt. He wanted to send a message so clear that no one would ever dare threaten Earth again. He ordered the Zenthari elder captured alive. Special forces teams using stealth technology stolen from the Talnari infiltrated the Zenthari homeworld. They moved through the capital city like ghosts. Zenthari security never saw them. In a daring raid that would be studied in military academies for generations, they extracted the elder from his fortified palace. The elder was brought before Admiral Chen on live broadcast. Every species in the galaxy watched. The golden-skinned alien who had ordered Elena's execution now stood in chains before her brother. "You burned my sister alive," Chen said quietly. "You did it in front of the entire galaxy. You did it to make a point, to show that humans did not matter, that our laws and rights meant nothing compared to your ancient power." The elder said nothing. He stared at Chen with hatred and fear. "I'm going to return the favor," Chen continued. "I'm going to execute you the same way you executed her, by fire, so that everyone can see, so that everyone remembers what happens when you hurt humanity." The elder screamed. He begged. He offered information, wealth, anything to avoid his fate. Chen ignored him. He had the elder taken to a specially prepared chamber. The same type of energy flames that had killed Elena were used. The galaxy watched as the Zenthari elder burned, his screams echoing across 1 billion worlds. When it was done, Chen made one final broadcast. 6 council members are dead or captured. 1 remains, the Talnari representative who has hidden himself away. We will find him. This war will not end until every member of the council who voted for Ambassador Vasquez's execution has paid the price. 4 hours later, the star at Talamora went supernova. The explosion was visible across dozens of light years. 2 billion Zenthari died instantly, vaporized in stellar fire. Their worlds were scoured clean. The industrial facilities were obliterated. The military bases became particles of dust. The galaxy watched in absolute horror. Humanity had actually done it. They had killed a star. They had committed genocide on a scale that was almost incomprehensible, and they showed no remorse, no hesitation, no mercy. Across civilized space, species that had never considered humanity a threat began to panic. If humans could do this to the Zenthari, one of the founding species of the Council, what could they do to anyone else? Embassies were closed. Trade was halted. Ships fled from human space. Everyone was terrified. On Earth, the mood was different. People watched the destruction of Talamora with grim satisfaction. They had not wanted this war, but now that it had started, they were going to win it. No matter what it cost, Admiral Chen stood on the bridge of his flagship and looked at the reports. The war was effectively over. The Zenthari were broken. The other Council species were retreating. Only one objective remained: Concordia Prime. The Council itself had to pay. He gave the order. The fleet turned toward the station where Elena had died, where this had all begun. It was time to end it. The human fleet arrived at Concordia Prime like a storm of metal and fire. 8,000 warships surrounded the station, their weapons primed, their crews ready. The station that had once symbolized galactic unity and peace was now a target. Admiral Chen sent a single message to the station authorities: evacuate all civilians and non-council personnel. You have 6 hours. Panic gripped the station. Millions of beings from hundreds of worlds scrambled to find transport. Ships departed in waves, fleeing to safety. The human fleet allowed them to leave unmolested. This was not about innocent civilians. This was about justice. Inside the council chambers, the remaining 5 council members gathered. 2 seats were empty, their occupants dead or captured. The surviving elders looked at each other with fear and resignation. They had ruled the galaxy for so long. They had believed themselves untouchable. Now they faced the consequences of their arrogance. The Vrex elder spoke first. We must surrender. There is no other choice. Humanity has proven they are willing to destroy entire star systems. They have shown they will not stop until we are all dead. Surrender? The Krell elder's scales rippled with anger. We are the Council. We do not bow to primitives. Those primitives destroyed the Zenthari home fleet in hours, the Telnari representative said quietly. They killed a star. They have weapons we cannot defend against. Pride will not save us now. The 6 hours passed. The station was evacuated except for the council members, their guards, and a handful of personnel who refused to leave. Admiral Chen's next message was simple. Come out. Face justice, or we will come in and get you. The council members debated. Some wanted to fight to the end. Others wanted to negotiate. But in the end, they realized the truth. There would be no negotiation. Humanity had made their demands clear from the beginning. This was not about terms or treaties. This was about punishment. They walked out of the council chambers together. 5 beings who had once ruled the galaxy, now dressed in simple clothes, walking toward their fate. Human soldiers met them at the docking bay. There were no chains, no weapons pointed at them. Just an escort to the shuttles that would take them to the UES Vasquez. Admiral Chen met them in a large chamber that had been specially prepared. It was broadcast live across every network in the galaxy. Billions of beings watched as humanity's military commander faced the council members who had ordered Elena Vasquez's execution. You are charged with the murder of Ambassador Elena Vasquez, Chen said formally. You invoked an ancient law to execute her for telling the truth. You burned her alive while the galaxy watched. How do you plead? The Krell elder drew himself up proudly. We followed our laws. The human bore false witness. The penalty was clear. We did nothing wrong. Then you understand nothing, Chen replied coldly. You killed an innocent person. You did it to make a point. To show that humanity did not matter in your galaxy. You succeeded in making a point. Just not the one you intended, he gestured to his guards. I could execute you the same way you executed her. I could burn you alive, but I'm not going to do that. Not because you deserve mercy, but because humanity is better than that. We will not become monsters to punish monsters. The council members looked confused. Was he letting them go? After everything? Instead, Chen continued, I offer you a choice. You can face public execution, or you can disband the council. End your rule. Accept a new galactic order where all species are equal, where justice is real, not just for the ancient and powerful, but for everyone. The chamber was silent. The council members looked at each other. Centuries of tradition, of power, of authority, all of it coming to an end. The Vrex elder stepped forward. If we disband the council, what happens to us? You will be tried for murder under the new system, Chen said. You will have real trials, real evidence, real justice, the kind my sister should have received. You'll spend the rest of your lives in prison, but you'll live. That's more mercy than you showed Elena. One by one, the council members agreed. They had no choice, but they also saw the logic. Death accomplished nothing. Reforming the galaxy might at least mean something positive came from this horror. The Galactic Council officially disbanded the next day. The treaty was called the Treaty of Elena Vasquez. It established new laws, new courts, new systems of justice. Every species would have equal representation. Disputes would be settled fairly. Ancient privileges were abolished. Power would be based on merit and justice, not age and tradition. The war ended 18 months after it began. The final casualty count was staggering. 400 billion beings dead, 300 trillion in economic damage, dozens of worlds devastated, several species brought to the edge of extinction. Humanity had lost 3 million soldiers and 200 billion in resources. But they had won. Completely and absolutely. No one in the galaxy would ever underestimate humans again. No one would ever dare attack them. The price had been made clear. 3 years passed. The galaxy slowly rebuilt under the new order. Human influence was everywhere. Human technology, human military doctrine, human ideas about justice and rights. Some species resented it, others embraced it. But everyone accepted it. They had no choice. On Earth in Geneva, a memorial was built. It was simple. A statue of Elena Vasquez, bronze and beautiful, standing with her hands raised as if speaking to the stars. Around the base were the names of all the humans who died in the war. 3 million names carved in stone. Admiral Marcus Chen, now retired, visited the memorial on the anniversary of Elena's death. He was older now, his hair gray, his face lined. The war had aged him in ways that had nothing to do with years. He stood before his sister's statue and remembered her smile, her laugh, her optimism about humanity's place in the galaxy. We won, he said softly to the statue. We made them pay. We changed everything. I hope you would understand. I hope you would forgive us for what we had to do. A young girl approached him. She was clearly not human. Her skin was blue, her eyes large and golden. She was Zenthari, one of the millions of orphans the war had created. She had been adopted by a human family and now lived on Earth. Admiral Chen? She asked shyly. He turned to her. Yes? I'm studying history at school. About the war. About what happened. My teacher said I should ask you a question if I ever met you. What question is that? Why did humans react so violently? Why did you kill so many people? Couldn't you have found another way? Chen looked at the girl for a long moment. She was innocent. She had lost her birth parents in the war, lost her homeworld, lost everything, and she was asking him to explain why. He knelt down so he was at her level. Because we're still learning what we are. Humans come from a world where we were the apex predator, the strongest, smartest, most dangerous species. For hundreds of thousands of years, we survived by being better at violence than anything else. We learned to make tools, weapons, strategies. We learned to work together to kill threats. He paused, choosing his words carefully. When we finally reached the stars, we tried to leave that behind. We tried to be peaceful, diplomatic, civilized. And for 50 years, we succeeded. But then the council killed your sister, and he stopped himself. Killed Ambassador Vasquez. They showed us that peace only works when everyone agrees to it. When someone breaks that peace, when someone threatens us, we remember what we are. We remember that we're still predators. Still dangerous, the girl thought about this. Is that why everyone is afraid of humans now? Yes, Chen said honestly. They're afraid because they saw what we can do when we stop holding back. They saw us at our worst, and they never want to see it again. Do you think it will happen again? Another war? Chen stood up and looked at the memorial, at the names of the dead, at the statue of Elena reaching toward the stars. I hope not. We built this new galaxy on the ashes of the old one. We made rules that should prevent this from happening again. But humans have a saying, hope for the best, prepare for the worst, we'll hope for peace. But we'll always be ready for war. The girl nodded solemnly. My teacher says that's why humans are good protectors now. Because you're scary enough that no one wants to fight. Chen smiled sadly. That's one way to look at it. We became the galaxy's guardians by showing we could be the galaxy's destroyers. Peace through strength. It's not the way I would have chosen, but it's the way things worked out. As the girl walked away, Chen turned back to the statue. The sun was setting, casting long shadows across the memorial. All around him he could hear the sounds of the city. Life going on. People living, working, loving, hoping. The war was over. The galaxy was at peace, but that peace was built on fear, on the memory of burning stars and genocidal weapons, on the knowledge that humanity pushed too far would unleash total destruction. Chen thought about Elena's final words. We came in peace. We won't anymore. She had been right. Humanity had gone to war with everything they had. They had shown no mercy, no restraint, no compassion, and it had worked. The galaxy was safer now, more just, more equal, but the cost had been almost too high to measure. Was it worth it, Elena? He asked the statue quietly. All those deaths, all that destruction. Did we do the right thing? The statue did not answer. It never would. But Chen knew what Elena would have said. She would have wanted justice, not genocide. She would